Hello, Louisville. Guess who's coming to dinner? Happy Monday. Guess who's coming to dinner? Welcome. I am your host, Janice Carter Miller. And today is the day that the Lord has made. So let us rejoice and be glad in it. There's a lot going on in this good old city and country of ours. In our city, since last we were on the broadcast, the DOJ came down with the findings from the investigation about LMPD and Metro government as to police brutality in the city of Louisville. And the hammer came down. And the word now is, now that the hammer has come down, so we are not going to wait a year for changes, because we've been supposedly working on these changes before Shields and after Shields. And our community is very upset about how we've been treated. But see, this has been going on not just for a few years, but this has been going on for decades in Louisville, Kentucky. This is not new to us. This is not new to us at all. It's not new in any community, really, where Black folks live. So there are a lot of changes that have to be made, and they need to be made immediately. One of the points that was brought up, I watched a live broadcast by Miss Hannah Drake, and she was saying that all the officers of those incidents that they investigated, and they weren't targeting any one specific investigation, is that those people still work on the force. So that seems like a mighty good place to start. And I am in total agreement with you, Miss Hannah Drake. You have to clean house. And that's, it used to be a time that when your mama cleaned the house, you put everybody out. You might have to put everybody out of the house before you can let them back in, or let people in that meet up to your qualifications and your standards. That's what we have to do. I know a police sergeant out in California did just that, made everybody reapply. She set a wonderful example. Crime is down. Community relations is up. What a thought. What a thought. One of the other things that I was asked to mention to you is the Kentucky Nurses Association wants everyone to know that if you haven't gotten a vaccine, you need to get a vaccine, because on May 11th, there will be no more free vaccines for COVID-19, or the one after that, and the one after that. By May 11th, you must get your free vaccine, or you will be charged, and they could cost up to $100. That comes straight from the president of the Kentucky Nurses Association, Miss Delano Manson. So she told me to let you all know. So if you know somebody who has not had their vaccine and needs their vaccine, because COVID is still creeping around here, catching folks off guard, catching folks who have not been vaccinated. Okay. So I won't talk about Ja Morant. I will talk about my Warriors, because Steph Curry just showed off the other night. Finally, we look like championship quality team. Go Warriors. Tonight we have a revisit, an encore visit from a young lady in our community who for years has been looking out for us and keeping an eye on our air and sniffing around, trying to find out where them funky odors come from and who's responsible. I'd like to bring back to Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, the executive director of the West Jefferson Community Task Force, Miss Arnita Gadson. Hello, Miss Arnita.
Hello, how are you?
I'm wonderful. And this has been 2 years, because you were like maybe my second guest when I first started the podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. And I didn't realize it had been, I know I'm going into my third year. So I've got you back. We talked before. I want to tell my audience, I called Mr. Arnita our very own Erin, our black Erin Brockovich, because she knows what's going on, and this has been her community and life's work. For how many years, Arlene, Arnita?
About, about 26.
Since when?
About 26.
26?
Yeah,
You're kidding.
about 26
Look,
years.
me and you got the same kind of hairdo.
What does that tell you?
Look, it tells me, I did mine because I wear hats in the winter.
Hmm.
So why go pay all that money to put a hat on it and flatten it out?
Right.
I said, no, I'm gonna have to work with this curls because it saved me money.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does save me
Hmm.
money. So tell the audience, because tell the audience all about West Jefferson Community Task Force and what you all do and what you've been doing over the past 2 years. Tell us what's been happening, because I know in 2 years, I know a lot has happened.
Well, actually, 2 years when we talk about COVID, when we bring COVID in it,
Okay.
then, that limited and stopped a lot. We had our environmental justice conference back in October, but we had to have it, we had it online.
Okay.
And it was a challenge, but from the reviews that we received, it was one of the best ones we had.
Okay. Okay.
So that was it was a shocker. So I have 5 new board members now, and they seem to be very excited. I'm excited with them. And knowing that we will get ready for our next environmental justice conference, probably in October around the same time we always have it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that we always start. We always look, we start now with our themes and then our speakers, what we want to do. Last year, what we had that was very good, we had Kentucky State University on with the Aquaculture Center. And many people don't know about the Aquaculture Center at Kentucky State.
You said aquaculture. I thought not agriculture, aquaculture. Okay.
Aquaculture,
All
yes.
right.
Now, many people know about the agriculture part
Agriculture,
of it,
yeah.
yes. But the Aquaculture Center is the one that actually they raise fish. I tease them all the time. I say, you make fish. They don't like that. But what they're doing is they're experimenting with fish and preparing them to replenish the water as climate change ups our temperature in
Okay.
the water. And many times our natural resources, our animals, they will morph into whatever they have to morph into to continue to live. And many times those things they morph into are not necessarily good for us, or we don't particularly want it. For
Mm-hmm.
example, there were some fish that morphed into having snake heads rather than regular fish heads. And so I believe that they did destroy most of them because they knew that that was not a good thing. So I just use that as an example. And there are many other examples that I'm not even aware of. But animals will morph, into what they have to morph into to survive. We're the only ones that's going to probably die. And we're not going to morph into anything except some sick creatures that will leave the earth. But
Mm-hmm.
the Aquaculture Center did a wonderful presentation. One of the other things we had Dr. McCants, who is the director of the Norton Center for Health Equity. He gave a wonderful presentation on environmental justice in Louisville. The other thing that we're trying to work on, we have worked with the administrator of the West Louisville Hospital and the Norton Center for Health Equity, because we wanted to make sure that hopefully we were successful. We will go back and revisit. We want to make sure that they were aware and that they would when they looked at patients, they realized that people in 402, 10, 12, 11, 16, and part of 3 have a different exposure than others. So, for example, we have found out, or it has been written, that mercury.
Okay, hold up. Go back and say those are our districts, right? That you're talking about.
Right.
So say those numbers and tell me where they are, because
40212 is basically Portland and Shawnee coming around.
okay,
40211 is Parkland, Chickasaw. 40216, I know I'm leaving out 40210 is like Russell in that
okay,
area. 40216 is Shively.
Tably, okay,
And 40203 is you're going east, like, Smoketown, going
okay,
from, California up Smoketown area. And our area, we do anything. I used to say we stopped at California, but I'm actually working with some people in East Louisville for some issues. So
wow,
yeah, they I guess somebody told them call me, huh?
that's
And
right,
so I'm trying to
right.
I'm
And
trying
who
to
else were they gonna call? Is there somebody else that people would tell other people to call? Nobody but you.
bless your heart. But I have, and I'm hoarse from a cold, so
Mm.
I'm struggling here. But I did. If I couldn't get anything else through, and I'm trying to really get this for people to understand, is that we have different things about us because we have been exposed to a lot more chemicals than any other person that does not live in these or have not been brought up in
Right.
these zip codes. And the reason why these zip codes are important because they are in close proximity to Rubbertown. They are in close proximity to Clariant, which is at 13th and Hill, which is a huge polluter. We're in close proximity to Brown Forman. And there are about, actually, altogether, there's about 38 manufacturers in Louisville that nobody even thinks of. So
Wow.
the exposure is there. And I use one example, mercury, which basically we get from the utility companies. People forget about the utility company. They forget about MSD. But that mercury has been proven that there is some effect on Parkinson. Now, how many people that have Parkinson does the doctor, first of all, even look at the zip code? We're trying to put information together in brochures I'm aging myself. There's not CDs anymore, drives.
Right.
And and to where doctors, when you look, what we're trying to do is when you notice that your patient lived. Now, this is one time we need to redline, okay?
Okay.
Because when a doctor sees that his patient has been, lives in 40211, those zip codes I gave you,
Right.
that should throw up a red flag, and they should start asking. How long have you lived there? Did you ever work in one of the chemical facilities? Tell me about, your life, where you are, where you
Right.
live,
Right.
and some issues, your family. Simply because in living in close proximity, that means that supposedly we're more likely to have cancer, diabetes, upper respiratory diseases, asthma, and heart disease.
Right.
So, but then again, don't let me talk about stress because I usually say stress brings a lot of that, and Black people are under more stress than anybody.
Right.
And I tease my doctor sometime. I said, I'm under stress because I got to work with people that look like you. But we have that relationship to where he understands where I'm coming from.
Okay.
But but all I'm saying is that, for example, kidneys. Blacks have a high level of creatinine. And many times, and this is in Harvard study. So anything I'm talking to, you can go to Harvard, put Harvard in, put creatinine, kidney disease, Black people, you'll find this stuff.
Okay.
And the creatinine levels that we have, we have a higher level of creatinine. Not that high, but it's higher.
Okay.
But when the creatinine level is heavy, many times doctors get nervous and they immediately want to put us on dialysis. There's nothing wrong with your kidneys. That's just we have a little higher level of that. So there are things.
And it may be what they call it, you're predisposed to it, maybe from just heredity, right? Okay. 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 All right.
And
Oh,
and who we are. The We have another thing is that when we have when we're exposed to let's say acrylonitrile and 1,3-butyl, many of these things come from gasoline, they come from our cars, but many of the things come from some of the plants. Okay. So, but the doctors never even think about that maybe this diabetes that you're saying I have, or a organ issue may have something to do with the exposure of what we've gone through. For example, I have two sisters. All three of us had to have the same kind of surgery. I was brought up at 36 and Grand, lived there. What was that? I lived there before there was an EPA. So you see what I'm saying? So we did not have this overarching organization that really put out some rules and regulations. So if we didn't have those, the states, they had their own, but they didn't have to listen to anyone that had this overarching rules and regulations. Most of the regulations were by the companies. They set them to protect the workers. Okay, not necessarily the community, but the workers.
Okay.
And then we have to understand that when Rubber Town was built around in the 1940s, that first of all, there weren't that many homes around it. Number two, there most of the people right around the home, right in that area, were white. They were not us. They were not Black. Right. We didn't come into the 50s and the 60s. So our exposure is not quite as much. We did a telephone survey several years ago where we reached out to people that we found that had lived in West Louisville, that no longer lived in West Louisville and was still alive. And we wanted to see some of the issues that they had. And we got so much conversation. We didn't realize the impact that we were having in getting these conversations. And many of these people had relatives that just were dead, and they never did really know why they died.
Why? Yeah. And how they contracted whatever it was that they had. Okay.
Right. They just assumed, it was just something that happened. And when we started talking we worked with University of Louisville, and we used their their call center. And many of them, did the calls. And when we were looking at putting it all together, it was really quite interesting. So, when you go back like that and you start looking at things, then that starts putting other things in your mind. So we look at the vehicles on the expressway.
Right.
When they built 264.
Okay.
In the 60s. Was it 60s? Yeah, I think it was in the 60s. And it was lead gasoline. There were no barriers put up like they put them up now. When they build expressways, you see all the barriers that they put up.
You're talking about the walls that they put up on the side. Okay.
Yes. Okay. There were none. You don't see any in West Louisville.
Really? So
you still don't see them. And then 264 split the neighborhood. When it came through, it split the neighborhood.
Right.
So people started asking, where are the fruit trees? Well, it split the trees. You got to have a male and a female. It split the trees. So, we lost our fruit trees. And people were exposed to the lead gas. I'm still telling people, we still don't know what happened to us from breathing all of that lead gas emissions coming from cars.
Right.
So, there's things, if we try to put it all together, it really is scary, because much of it, you just don't know. You have people putting out stuff that Black people live 10 years less. Okay. Yeah. Well, and they may even say, it's polluted, and because of the things that people have to live in, we live 10 years less. But, I want to say to Mr. PhD and Mr. MD and everybody that's writing these things, I want to ask you, so what's your solution?
Yes. Yeah.
They don't have any. Well, you keep telling people that they're sick, they're going to die, they're going to die 10 years, they got this and that and the other. It's a mindset that you start putting into our minds that we are sick people. People look at us as we're sick. And Janice, let me say this. This is my little pet peeve. Marginalized. I hate that word. I'm not marginalized. You're not marginalized. Okay. That's marginalized thinking. And when you keep saying it, Mr. the people that say it, then when you look at me immediately, you're looking at me as a marginalized person. I have degrees, you have degrees, but I'm still marginalized. No, I'm disadvantaged, I'm disenfranchised, but marginalized, I am not.
Yeah.
And I talk about that so much. I'm not going to tell you what report with the city I was working on. They finally ended up taking the word out.
The word marginalized.
Marginalized. Yeah. Yeah. Because to me, it doesn't really talk about the community in itself and what has happened to the community and what has happened to the opportunities that we have missed, or that we never had, or that we don't have now. It talks about me as a person, and it labels me as marginalized. And I don't like that. That's my personal thing. Nobody has to agree with it. But it really, to me, it says a little bit more than what it's almost like the woke, but we won't get into that. But
Okay. Whoa. Well, that's deep. Because words mean a lot. Words have had an exceedingly abundant effect on our lives because of stereotypes, and we're this and we're that, and and we're a lot of things that what they said was not necessarily so. We could withstand pain and all this. Like I had I can't Dr. Chenault, who's out at he teaches at U of L School of Medicine, and he was brought in to get rid of the myths in medicine. Because older doctors were teaching younger doctors. They were passing on these same lies about who Black people were.
Yes.
And what we had, and why we're predestined to have this disease or that disease. And a lot of what it is where we have been living. That's what you're saying. But now you're saying that we still don't have those retainer walls down in the West. So what is it that we can do, Arnita, to get those, to get that addressed? People in those districts got to start at the city level, right?
Well, actually, the one thing is we no longer have lead gas. So since we don't have the lead gas, then we still need to deal with the emissions. Okay. But not to the point that we used to, because it was all because of the lead gas. Now, I understand, and I'm mentioning this, and I in no way know what I'm talking about for sure, because I have not called the Department of Transportation. But I understand they're talking about bringing a ramp off of 264 onto Broadway. I have to confirm that. Now, when you are talking about that, you're talking about cars and emissions again.
But then you're also talking about coming through the middle of our city. How do you get 264 to Broadway?
Well, like I say, I'm not quite sure. The only way, now this is my imagination. If you're going to come off of 264, you already have a ramp that comes off the Shively exit on Muhammad Ali. The only way for them to put another ramp to come off on the Broadway, they either have to extend that ramp or they have to come off on the other side, which takes all those homes on the east side of 264.
Okay, so when you say 264, you are on the south end of the city.
No, 260. When you're coming east, like to St. Louis on 64.
On 64.
Yeah, and then Shively, you take 264. You take the exit to go to Shively.
Right.
Now that's 264.
Right.
So You're coming around the west end of the city. And
Oh, so you're saying like the one, it would be between River Park and the Dumanil exit? Because that's
yes, yes, yes,
yes, okay,
yes. And supposedly it's supposed to come. And I'm saying this, if somebody hears this, you know different. Hey, I am always willing to say I was wrong, but if I'm wrong, I want you to tell me what's right.
right.
So but
Because before we know it, it'll be happening, and nobody
it will
will
be
ever had a chance to say anything about it.
right.
What district is that over there,
That's
Juanita?
40210. I
Four,
forgot. Yeah, I forgot.
Portland?
No,
No,
for
no, no.
it's in the Russell. It's in the Russell area. Because if they start coming off that ramp to Broadway,
To
then they
Broadway, that's not Russell.
no, yeah. If it's like Madison, if that's Madison, you have Walnut. I mean, sorry, Muhammad Ali,
Mhm.
Elliott. That's Russell. That's the Russell area. Because my
How
mother
far down does Russell go?
to Broadway.
I mean, coming west, how
Oh,
far to
um,
34th Street?
no, it comes further than that because my mother's house is at 31st and Elliott, and she's in the Russell area.
And that wouldn't be Shawnee area.
No, that's not Shawnee. Mm-mm.
Well, so they're saying from 9th Street all the way down
To
to
about
Elliott,
uh
down
to,
in the 30s is still
it,
Russell.
yeah. I think it may stop at 34th Street.
Yeah, it would seem like it should,
Yeah.
but I don't know what the 34th Street area would be called then, if it
Well,
wouldn't be called Shawnee.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It butts up to Shawnee, then Shawnee would start.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, okay.
yeah.
I got you. Okay.
It's
So they're looking, so now if you see that freeway, once you get off at River Park, the rest of that freeway goes all the way across. It crosses 36th Street,
right,
bringing us down to almost like what, 38th when you get off at Dumanil, because you're at
right,
least 4 blocks from 34th Street.
right. You're right there on Dumanil.
Oh,
You're right. I
right.
mean, Virginia.
Yeah,
You're right there on Virginia.
right. Well, this is why, when we have conversations like this, and people need to pay attention, because most of the time when we hear something, just like you said, you heard
I
something,
heard. Yeah.
that it had to start somewhere.
Right.
So wherever it's starting, it's like, well, they're getting ready to do this, just like the whole thing with TIFF.
Yeah.
It was they were talking about it, and then the renters started to had to make a little movement and make a little noise because they weren't being included in some of those conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think they finally got around to including them.
Mm-hmm.
But wow.
So
So
that.
I mean, it's like somebody comes up with these bright ideas.
Mm-hmm. There was some.
Bright ideas to move into our neighborhood.
Right.
Or is that exit because of the new Goodwill and the hospital? Is
Well,
that maybe a reason?
the way I was told was that the reason for that is because the businesses on Broadway and around that area, it would have an opportunity for people to drop off right into the quote unquote business district. I
Okay.
don't know, I don't know. I'm just saying that because I don't know where it's going to drop off.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you look at where the overpass is. That's all I'm saying. Where the
right.
overpass is, what is that little street? East Lawn
East Lawn, yes.
and 32nd and the church, the Catholic Church,
Yeah.
Saints
Yeah.
Stores.
Right. That'd be 30. Yeah. 32nd.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So
Oh.
it would, I have forgotten how much you have to have so much acreage on each side of a ramp. So that would literally, if that would be the case, that would take out, if you would notice, all from the Urban League's track,
Right.
all the way down to Muhammad Ali is flat, is cleared. It's clear. There are no buildings or anything. From the track, if you just follow that block coming all the way down towards Broadway.
So that's 30th. So the block right across the street from the track, that's cleared, but the next street, it has houses on it.
No, come all the way from the track down past Madison, all the way
Past, okay.
Madison. Now there's nothing there either.
Well,
All that is clear.
I go to church over in that area. But
Okay.
there is a block of homes on that street from 30th.
Yeah.
They go under the viaduct.
Yeah.
On the left-hand side. If you go
Right.
coming down Muhammad Ali, you got the empty lot, and then you got that street, that's not Madison. Madison is on, yeah, that would be Madison. That is Madison. So there's homes on that street still.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't mean that. I just meant that one block.
That one block. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
just straight on. Yeah, there's still homes on that other side over there.
Right.
And of course I was concerned because that will take my mother's home.
Oh, wow.
In the event if they clear all of that, and they're not there that far away from her house. Just like you said, there's East Lawn. When you go around East Lawn, then you cut into what we call Short Elliott because everything was cut off. Right. You have that one block of Elliott, and that's where her home is.
Ah, okay.
So if they come all the way to Broadway, they're going to take all of that. And that's my concern. And if somebody, whoever, if they look at your podcast and they know more than me, please let me know. But I'm going to call myself at the Department of Transportation. All the people I used to know, everybody's like me. They're retired, either retired, old, dead, something. So they're not there anymore.
Like, girl, I haven't worked there in 20 years.
Yeah. So I've been retired for a little while, but it's just amazing how, and all this money. I'm so afraid. I keep telling people about money being thrown at the West End, and then you don't see it grow. You don't, when they talk about economic lift. But let's use an example. I'm trying to get, I received a grant to do some retrofitting with in a home that, that's anything that will decrease energy usage. Okay. Now, I asked for 15 million from one of the big grants coming down to do 1,000 homes in West Louisville. Well, someone looked at my grant, and I don't know if Louisville came up with this from this grant, but I had talked about it enough. So there was this program that was called Solar Over Louisville that was developed,
right,
where you could get a 10 or 15% discount for solar, right?
Right.
And
you put solar panels on your home.
Right. So the goal was to get 50% of Jefferson County homes with solar. You say 50% of Jefferson County, what is that in West Louisville? Maybe 1%, a 0.5%. You're talking about 50% of the whole entire county. It sounds good when you say 50% of Jefferson County. But if solar, and I've had it estimated for my house, and I don't have a great big house. If my house was $23,000, 10% is $2,300. That's all you're going to take off. If you take 5%, that's half of that $2,300 and add it back. So now it still comes to around $20,000 or $19,000. Can I afford that? Many people in West Louisville cannot afford it, even with the 10 or 15% difference.
Right.
So you haven't done one thing for the people and their homes in West Louisville. Now, in the Louisville...
So this program, or this grant monies and these funds, they knowingly, unknowingly will be redirected in another area that has nothing to do with West Louisville.
Right. No, and it's the idea. It's really not funds. People have to pay for it. They just get a discount. So
Right.
you see what I'm saying? You didn't do
It's only
anything.
those that can afford to pay for
Right,
it.
right,
Right.
right. So
Okay.
you have so what I asked for was the ability to retrofit, solar fit homes in West Louisville, because you talking about an economic impact. People in West Louisville are paying $400 and $500 a month for electric bills,
Electric. Okay.
LG&E. Well, if you can do that, and not even if you just knock 30% off of their bills, if you have $500, what's that, $150? That may not sound like a lot, but coming from 500,
Right. That's a lot.
that's right.
And a big help.
Yes. So, and that is sustainable. That is there forever. See, a lot of things now we want to throw things that is temporary. If but you retrofit a home, and many homes, and the sad part about it, many homes in West Louisville don't qualify because they face the wrong way. So those homes you can't put
So you've got to be facing what?
east and west, east and west.
East and west.
Yeah. And in West Louisville, the eave part is faced the back and the front rather than the side, the roofs.
Right. Right.
So you can't do. Okay, well that's fine. They have high ceilings. Let's go in there and lower the ceilings. Let's put the insulation in. Let's put in all LED, all
LED lighting.
thank you, all
Okay.
LED light. Let's put
Okay.
alternative energy appliances in there. Let's put all new windows and doors in there.
Yeah.
That's going to bring it down 20%. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Yes.
So, but no, I didn't get that. I get that would be too much. And as I always say, many things we talk about in West Louisville, do we really want to help people in West Louisville? Do we really want to help? And the answer, I have some trouble with that. Yes, on that answer.
Yeah.
Because
Well, but you are the person to me that sounds like that needs to be in the room when they're making these decisions, and they talk about all the different parts, the moving parts, but your part about our environment and our sustainability to be able to live and keep our homes in the West, that's left out.
yeah.
Does that seem like that's left out to you?
It is very left out. And the reason why it is the reason why they don't like the food, Arnita Gadson, is because they know I'm going to get something done. I asked for money to do some more monitoring. With the STAR program in place, we have lowered emissions by 85%. So some of our children up to age 10, 12, 15, they did not have the air that we breathed in West Louisville. It's better. Some of the chemicals you can't detect them. We did, and that was found over a 10-year period after we put the STAR program in place. After a 10-year, look at it, that's fine. We have some of the things that are causing anguish is that you have some companies. You had Clarion who asked for they wanted to put a process in that up the levels of emissions. Unfortunately, in trying to, a lot of people were upset, but they did not really break the rules. They upped their emissions on one process, but they didn't break their overall company rule. In other words, what they could put out company-wide.
Company-wise, okay.
So they didn't break the rule. You have DuPont, who had a release, and the biggest fine they got was $7,000. Well, now I don't know what that was about. So
that's what they call a slap on the wrist.
Right. And see, there are some things that people have to understand like this, that all companies will get fined for violations, but many violations, the fine is much bigger in white areas. They're not as big in black areas. This is known across the United States. This is just a thing that is done, that we know that is done. I have talked to Air Pollution Control District, and they don't have the regulatory authority to do this, but the city can make it happen. The state can make it happen. And that is when you have, and everybody's all into environmental justice. There's so much money out here for environmental justice. You have all kind of people, light, black, big, fat, everybody's environmental justice person now. They care about,
Mm-hmm.
and but we really aren't. When I say not doing anything, don't want to say that because we have done so much. But when a company has a release, there should be a percentage over the fine that they're given that goes back into the community that was affected. In other words, if you have $100,000 fine and 20% of that should go back into the community. You pay your $100,000, but you're going to pay 20% penalty to the people that you have
That
exposed.
live in the community.
Exactly.
Well, that's one of those what they say systemic. That sounds systemic to me.
Mm-hmm. I can't. It's hard for me. I don't have that. I'm trying to get the right people in place, because the one thing about environmental things, you have to get a hold of that person who can do something. When you argue to the wrong people, it is totally just like talking to a tree. Yeah. So we and I know I have asked for, and it's my fault. I should have done it. My board told me to do it some time ago. I just got busy, but I just did it today to ask to meet with the mayor to talk about many of these things, that I want to get forward. And the main things are to get people retrofitted in West Louisville, to talk about more fines that can be levied, reasons for that. And I know a lot of people feel like, well, some of the companies have moved. When we were trying to get the STAR program approved, mm-hmm. many of the companies, that's when Mayor Abramson was the mayor.
Right.
And many of the companies said, well, if you allow this to go through, we will move. And a lot of people don't give him credit. He said, go ahead and move.
Right. But there was, I've connected to that. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I read about it or what it was, to say that those companies moved, and with the city's blessings, that some of these companies moved out of our communities because those companies were paying such high wages to Black workers that we were being able to buy those homes in the West and on the Parkway and things of that nature. And they really didn't. It was like the city was trying to keep that really from happening. I don't know.
Well, none of the chemical companies moved anywhere.
The chemical, but Brown and Williamson, and what's the other one that was right up around 18th Street?
Philip Morris.
Yeah. They moved. Yeah. I mean, that was before even they wanted to do the whole stop the tobacco.
Yeah.
Thing. That was way before then.
Yeah.
They moved.
And it's just like we had DuPont Dow elastomers. That was the one chemical company that moved out of Rubbertown. And it had nothing to do with our monitoring. They had planned on moving before we did all of our stuff.
Okay.
And when they moved, and I try to tell people this, they took a product with them called chloroprene. That was one of the most dangerous products that was processed in that area. And they were the only ones that processed it. So when they moved, they took that one altogether. That was gone.
Okay. So if that was a good thing.
That was a good thing. So if nothing else came out of that, then at least that happened. But then the other companies, when APCD's board approved that STAR program, Strategic Toxic Air Regulation, when they approved
Toxic Air Regulation. Okay.
When they approved that STAR, then that began, and the regulations were set more strict than the state and EPA. So we do have a program here that we can tout and be very proud of, because it was only one United States that was directed by a community. So I had the opportunity to go over the United States and talk about it. That made me a travel person. But anyway, but with it, I mean, we still have a long ways to go now.
Yeah.
So I mean, we can't sit back on our laurels and say, this is it. But
Arnita, do you have a person from the younger generation that's shadowing you?
I hope now, when I said I had 5 new people on the board, I have 5 new people on the board, and I have all of them could probably be my kids, except for one.
Okay.
So that's what I'm trying to. I'm trying to raise, but the whole thing to it is that many people, once you get into this, you realize it's a complex thing. You just can't talk about the oldest is so bad, blah 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 blah.
Right.
You got to know what you're talking about. For example, we've talked about odors forever and a day. Air pollution control district and metropolitan sewer district, they've been blaming each other for odors. It ain't me, it's them. It ain't us, it's them.
Right.
Well, now we have gotten it down to, I work on one of the committees with MSD. And 15 years ago, we were fined $850 million, MSD. When I say we were fined, because look on your bill and see the biggest thing you have is your sewer bill.
Right.
Your water bill may be $30. Your sewer bill may be $200. And all of that.
So that they're making us pay for that.
Yes. Yes. But the reason why we were fined is because
the whole city.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The reason why we were fined is because MSD did not keep up with the infrastructure. So they have to replace.
So that's what they're doing. They're trying to catch up now.
Yes. Yes. And the 800.
Did you see my podcast with Mr. Parrott?
No, I didn't.
Go back and check that one out.
I will.
We might need to revisit some things because I didn't have enough information. One of the main things was about the odors that
Right.
kept coming up, because you remember one of your meetings I sat in, and the one little lady that was just going.
Yes.
There was someone there from MSD.
Right.
That I sat in on the meeting, and but it was more, I was just trying to get his story and his take on things.
Right.
It wasn't so much about the inner workers. It was and the programs that MSD had that were a benefit to the West.
Right.
And it seemed as though he was working to go in the right direction, but he was talking about the old pipes and why they did the retainer down the reservoir down in Shawnee Park, because that's where the biggest pipes were.
Right.
Saying the rest of the pipes in the city inside 264, he said, or inside 264, that the pipes were small, and they were some kind of system that the way they flowed, when you had too much rain, they couldn't handle it.
Right.
That's why we had the floods, like over in the Maple area.
Right.
So
right. Okay. And Park Duval. We talked with one of the members on my board is from Park Duval. And so she I let her be the point person, because she was so excited. I let her be the point person, but we actually talked to Tony because of the flooding.
Right.
And the whole thing to it about people, when they begin to redo Park Duval, Carter Homes, and
Southwick.
Thank you, Southwick. There was
we can go back and get those names. Look, Peyton Place.
And it's like, put us all together and we'll tell the story.
Yeah, we can go back a little bit now.
Yeah.
Wow,
but they have all of that was done under what they call a Hope 6 grant. And under that Hope 6 grant, there was a part where this was a flood zone. All right. Well, Hope 6 you couldn't really do the Hope 6 if you had a flood zone. So MSD, many years, they just changed it from flood zone to flood prone. And but it was still
Oh,
flood.
still a flood zone.
Yeah. So, and a lot of it they blamed, which was right. The hill that comes down from 264 going around the back part of Park Duval.
Yeah.
Hmm. See,
Okay. I got you.
yeah, the coming down, all of that is state because it's a state highway. So the anything like
So
the
that's like the when it crosses Algonquin,
yes,
that part. Okay.
yes, that part back there, that's state. And
Okay.
so so the state, we had to verify that the state was doing their part to maintain the water, which they weren't necessarily doing. But what the state does is many times they would just contract the city to do the things that they were supposed to do. Many people don't even know how many state roads we have running right through our communities, you know.
Yeah.
And so they contracted MSD to fix what they needed to fix. But the other thing was MSD had now supposedly is fixed. They put in the basins that they needed, but the one thing before they put them in, they weren't keeping them clean, and that was the problem.
Oh, okay. The
So
maintenance.
yeah,
The
just
maintenance
keeping them
wasn't
clean.
happening.
So when we asked them, look, until you get this fixed, then because Tony kept saying, well, Arnita, this is, we've got this slated out for another 3 years. People are losing stuff. They can't wait another 3 years. This is getting bad. So, you know, help me here and let's try to do something about it. So they did. So they started maintaining those basins regularly.
Okay.
And so the flooding stopped to the point that it was beyond acceptable.
Right.
So now they've done a lot of work down there. And I think I
Oh,
got,
that's good.
yeah,
Wow.
I've got a notice. I had a notice from MSD. They keep me up on what they're doing. They're trying to
Okay.
keep me from fussing, you know. you,
They try to keep you from putting them on speed
yeah,
dial.
yeah, yeah. So, but but there are really things to do. My real thing right now is to getting these doctors and medical people aware. So
Okay.
when they start looking at us, I spoke to the first and second year medical students up at University of Louisville, and I walked in. I have this thing of getting attention before I get to my speaking space. And when I came down the steps, down into the room, I was talking, well, good evening. I'm glad that you invited me, blah, 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 blah. And I'm talking, I'm kind of laughing, kind of introducing myself. And then I said, so what did you think of me? That, you know, I said, now don't tell me, don't hurt my feelings. Just what did you think of me? And I said to the medical students, what your first impression of people can be your last way of a false analysis. You've got to learn to take away those predispositions of what you think about this person when you first meet them and look and find out what's wrong with them medically, emotionally, mentally, and all these other alleys. Because you can misdiagnose. Then I asked them, how many environmental health classes are you required to take in your medical studies? None.
Wow.
None.
No.
None.
Okay, so let me stop you right there. Arnita, then when they build the hospital
Mm-hmm.
over on 28th and Broadway,
Mm-hmm.
I lost my earring. Then that's one of those places that you need to be in the room
Mm-hmm.
when they start talking about when they get ready to bring uh, the medical teams to the community, that their focus has to be a totally different focus than the norm. That
Yes.
their focus has to be people that live in this area um, are dealing with. I mean, I've never seen so much diabetes in my life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Diabetes now. I come home, I have hypertension.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
I always thought I was just hyper.
Yeah.
I didn't know it had something to do with something else, but
Yeah. Yeah.
health wise. But that these types of things, that they have to practice their medicine with an understanding of the environment that they live in.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, that of the being predisposed from the years and years of their ancestors, their descendants of people who have lived in the West, say since the 50s and 60s.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I heard people say before that a lot of people that live in the West, their windows are boarded up. They don't want to open their windows, and I'm saying because they don't want to breathe the air.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then now on TV, they're saying, well, the air inside your house is probably worse than the air outside your house. So I think, once again, I just commend you for doing the heavy lifting, and you stay on top of all this. I mean, you rattle it off. I mean, like, I mean, it's what you do. It's what you know.
Mm-hmm.
And you know it because you've been knee deep in it, and you've rolled up your sleeves, and you've tried to find ways to help solve these problems in our community.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I asked you if you had someone shadowing you, because we need someone. We need lots of yous.
Yes.
We need a lot of Arnitas to
Mm-hmm.
do this work, because this is a lot for one woman, even though you have a task force now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But we need our younger adults to be involved and to be conscious about all of this, so they can, I mean, they're bringing up their whole families,
Mm-hmm.
because some of them might be in their 30s and 40s, but some of them are grandmothers already.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
now, if you want this thriving, vibrant family, you have to make sure that they're living in an environment that can cause them to thrive,
Mm-hmm.
and not pamper them with diseases and bad air and bad odors and situations that the growth of the city might uh,
Overlook.
well, they just impound them. They make decisions that are not good for people's health that live in the area.
Right.
We want to put a freeway through it, so that means all these houses getting ready to go to public domain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I always felt like the chemical companies should just buy all the homes in the West.
Mm-hmm.
Just buy them flat out, because they'll probably never be able to sell them.
Well,
Just,
well, now that, Janice, we have to look at that, because now people are coming along and they're buying up. I'm sure you heard about the company that bought up 2,300 houses in West Louisville, and they're rehabbing them, and of course they're selling them for $150,000 in West Louisville. And if you are a renter, they're taking your rent from $850 to $1,800. And it's terrible what is happening when it comes to the abandoned homes. There was just one company. I belong to the Kentucky Real Estate Association, so I listen to this stuff. I even sit there and listen to how, oh yeah, this is what we can do to make money. We can buy houses here. Of course, they're talking about all over, buying houses, not necessarily West Louisville, but in West Louisville, we have so many vacant lands. Now, let me tell you my little idea. I'm going to say it here publicly, so maybe somebody else can jump on it and do something about it, because I try to stay in my lane. But I always said, let's take a 10 block squared. I gave this idea to the council years ago. Let's take a 10 block squared. Let's say in that 10 blocks, you may have 10 vacant homes. Let's make that 10 block squared a co-op. Let the people in there buy the homes. And in other words, you get the homes for little or nothing, because they're not doing anything. The city comes in. Are you ready? The city comes in and they fix up the home. Well, when you sell the home, the city gets the money back, but all over that goes into the co-op, goes to the people in the neighborhood.
Right.
People will begin to care about that neighborhood more, because they'll see what they have done. And it will, and now you've got and it's not owned and operated, but they know that they had something to do with a beautiful
It's like
neighborhood.
Smoketown has a co-op.
Yes. Yes.
They, they've got the grocery store, and where the community was a part of that, and they have the say so about how the funds are spent and things of that nature. Okay, we have to do part two, Arnita, because
Okay.
I know most of our viewers are probably saying, "Lord have mercy, what else is it?" But I know every time I have a conversation with you, it's a conversation that needs to be had,
Mm-hmm.
but on a regular.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to talk to you about that too, because I think there needs to be a monthly update from you on this
Mm-hmm.
show. But
Okay.
think about that,
Okay.
and maybe talk to your task force and see if there's something that we can work together so we can inform the community. And I know you have the monthly meetings,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not so much on the Facebook and the YouTube and in that stratosphere, but
Yeah.
it needs to be.
Well, it's on the task force Facebook, so you can pull up all of our meetings
Okay.
on the Facebook. So if they just want to go to West Jefferson County Community Task Force Facebook, it's on there.
But see, sometimes they just need some live conversation.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Where you need to come back on, and I open up the chat lines for people to talk to us and
Mm-hmm.
tell us what's going on where they live, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe give some ideas about some things that other people might think that we need to have happening, or how we can look out for our community.
Exactly. And what I welcome are people that can have solutions. Most of the time, we know the
We
complaints.
know what the problems
We
are.
know the problems are, but if you have, and I have to admit real quick, some of these young people have come up with some things that I swear, if I knew how to invent some of these things, but that's it. See, we need to start with some of these things that young people are coming up with. We got to
Mhm.
find somebody to do it. We need to get engineers involved. We need to get,
Right,
you see what I'm saying?
right, right. Well, um, I'm gonna put you down again for next month sometime,
Okay.
because this is not just a one stop conversation.
Oh,
It's ongoing,
no. Mm-hmm.
and because there are changes that you know about that are happening from month to month,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
week to week, month to month.
Yeah.
And in order for the community to stay abreast of all of this,
Mm-hmm.
they need to hear what's happening.
Right. Right.
We need to be like the Louisville Defender. We
Mm-hmm.
come out every week.
Mm-hmm. And we need to talk about, there's some things that happen with the state. They're talking about water, issues, House bills they're passing for water quality that affect us and we don't even know it. We don't even know it. We're talking about, they're trying to give minors permission now to put more stuff in the streams. They're trying to allow, like solar farms. They're trying to
Right.
allow them to, it's just so much that we don't even think about that really
That's going
affect.
on right as we walk around
Right.
oblivious to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to thank you so much for all your hard work and all your knowledge and all um, your methods that you look into finding solutions to help our community, because that's a task, and that's why you have a task force, huh?
Yes.
Well, I'm going to tell you, just yeah, we this needs to be on a regular, and I'm going to talk to you. We're going to have our meeting that we were supposed to have the first of the year at some restaurant, you and I, for a
Yeah.
couple of hours.
Yes.
Uh, we're going to do that, and find a way to make this more of an gotta tune in to hear what's happening. And because I think it's really important. I don't live in the West anymore, but I know I grew up, and I say, man, I lived on Cecil and Garland.
Yes. Yes.
So now I'm not that far from the plants,
Mm-hmm. You
and
were right there. You're right there by MSD.
what, on Cecil and
Cecil
Garland.
and yeah. You just go all the way to the parkway and go around past the park, and there's
Oh yeah, it's
yeah,
right down the street. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So, but I want to say thank you, and um, maybe next time we can bring a couple of your committee members, especially the young new ones,
yes,
and so we can maybe energize them, because we need to make sure that they stay pumped up, because see, they have to be like you are the energizer bunny, because you stay pumped up, because that's because you know your stuff. And just like you say, they don't want to see you coming.
No, they don't. They don't.
No, they don't want to see you coming. But the other ones are, the next generation needs to be able to pick up this baton and follow your lead.
Yes.
So if it's something, life happens.
Yes.
And as life happens, somebody else needs to say, well, I know the direction we should be going, and
Yes.
I can step in here and I can take over.
Oh yeah. I'm preparing them to do that.
Okay, that's a wonderful thing.
Yes.
All right, my sister, let's look at next week. We keep saying next week, the next week. So we can have our meeting, because we need to do this, because I've got some ideas for you.
Okay.
All
Well,
right.
thank
Have
you
a blessed
for inviting
evening.
me.
It's dinner time. Bon
Yeah.
appetit, my dear.
All righty.
I'll talk to you soon. This will play again on Friday, okay?
Okay. All
All
right.
right, sweetie. Talk to you soon.
Again. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Wow. That's a lot. All that information and what's going on. I hope you tuned in, and I hope you were able to grasp what's happening while we're not thinking about things that are happening with the air that we breathe. Where we live is important. And just think about where our parents lived and where we grew up. Because, see, now I'm a senior citizen. So, I went to elementary school, and I went to junior high school and college living in the West. So, thank God that I haven't been um, tasked with anything more than hypertension and a high blood pressure and a little, maybe this thyroid thing has something to do with that, huh, Arnita? You just never know about, because it's, look, and I moved home. When I moved home, I moved from Las Vegas, a place where people go to get rid of allergies. And when I came home, I was introduced to the ever-present Kentucky crud. I was like, man, of all the things that I could get when I come home, I get allergies. And where do they land? In my throat. So I've had to deal with that. I had a gig one night at Joe's Palm Room, and I was singing, and the notes would not come out. There was nothing there. I didn't know what was happening. I went to the doctor, and she says, well, you have allergies, and they're in your throat. So I said, well, I had to come home. I couldn't stay where I was living. So now I have to take medicine, especially this time of year, because the last week I've been coughing like crazy, and it's the allergies, and they're in my throat. That's not where I needed allergies. I could have a runny nose. I wish they weren't in my throat. But on that note, it's dinner time, everyone. Hope you enjoyed this evening show. It was very informative. And that's what I want to do. I want to share information with the community, because you need to know what's going on where you live, in the air, on the land, and by sea. We need to stay in touch with our environment and what's happening, because the growth, the center on Goodwill on 28th and the hospital, that means some other things in the city, like Miss Arnita was talking about. They might have to put a ramp to get off the freeway at Broadway, so you can be right there at the hospital. So keep your ears open. Keep your eyes open. Stay engaged. Okay? Intently stay engaged, because we don't get newspapers like we used to. And you get your Louis Defender every week. They still print them. And you can see them online now. The Louis Defender is online. It's digital. But it still comes out. I still get a physical paper in my hand, which I love, which I absolutely love. But that conversation that we had tonight is one of those conversations that need to be just like the Louis Defender every week. We need to know what's happening in the city, what they're planning on doing, how it affects us, what we can do about it. Okay? On that note, have a fantastic evening. I'll see you next Monday. Bon appetit. All right.